I recently wrapped up the long overdue rear axle seal replacement on my 3rd gen 4Runner, and I wanted to take a moment to share with you guys a few tips. Starting off, make sure you have the right tools to do the job. If you're going to go the DIY method, you're going to spend a pretty penny on all of the tools, but what you'll be left with is a little bit of cost savings in the end, and you have all of these tools for future jobs. An additional point on the tools, make sure that you're buying quality tools. If you don't buy quality tools, you may end up breaking something and then end up with a much larger problem than you had originally with just a leaking axle seal. Now, if you're wanting to get a little bit thrifty, you can use the AutoZone tool loaner program for a couple of the tools. That's going to be the seal driver and then also the seal puller. You may also find some of the tools needed for this job are relisted on eBay from people who have done the job before and are now reselling the tools. Next up, if you are going to have high quality tools, you may as well have high quality parts. What I found when I pulled out my axle shaft was that this bearing had been replaced before with this, an aftermarket bearing, not a Toyota specific bearing, and lo and behold, it failed. Probably not just because it was an aftermarket bearing, but also the person who did the job didn't do a great job. But nonetheless, I purchased Toyota bearings to replace mine. Have high quality parts. You don't want the job failing because you try to save a buck on the parts. And since we're speaking of parts, what you'll find is that your brake shoes are most likely saturated with axle oil. You may as well replace them, so buy those shoes as well when you go and order all of your parts. Next up, before you even start the job, I would recommend cleaning the surface. If your axle has leaked at all, there's probably a lot of dirt and road grime that has built up on that fluid and it's caking to the back of that brake drum. Just terrible. So either clean it or wear glasses the entire time you do the job, or have an extra box of gloves because you are going to burn through them doing the job. Also, we're going for quality here, so as you tear down the entire rear axle assembly, clean as you go. You do not want to have debris in contact with all of these new parts that could deteriorate them faster. Think of it this way: do you think your garage is as clean as a Toyota assembly plant or a Toyota supplier? Probably not. Now, with any job where you're taking off bolts or nuts that maybe don't get removed but once every 100,000, 200,000 miles, blast it down with some WD-40. Do that, or eat a couple of extra Wheaties in the morning to make it a bit easier when removing those bolts or nuts. Now, when you go to take the various retainers, ABS gear off of the axle shaft, you can stand up that shaft on its threads. But a good thing to have is an old brake rotor that you can actually slide those threads into, so that way it sits flat, and if you bump it, the whole thing doesn't fall over on your workbench. So this is a great thing to have. Also, when you get to the point of removing your snap ring, do not cut it. What you will most likely do is cut into the axle shaft itself, which is not good. Buy yourself a pair of snap ring pliers. This goes back to tip number 1, have all the right tools. Buy a set of those pliers to remove this properly. Okay, just a couple of more tips here. I have a pair of calipers to help me measure how much polished metal surface was showing after pressing on the retainer and ABS gear. You want it to be between like 4 to 6 millimeters. So having something to measure, whether it's calipers or just a small ruler where you can get down to those fine increments, is a great thing to keep on hand. It also allows you to measure how much ride you have between that retainer and the seal when you go to install the axle shaft. Now, my wife was super sweet in helping me lift up the press and situate everything from time to time. But the times where she was doing things that were more important than this, I had to do it myself. That was very tricky. So if you have a second set of hands for the entire job, great. If you have it for just part of the job, good as well. But just know that it is a bit tricky moving the height of the press up and down as you do the job. Lastly, you want to have some sort of reference guide or have done some research before starting the job. And if you're watching this video, you're already doing that. I printed out the Adventure Taco write-up on this particular job. I even went by and made a whole bunch of notes on some of the pages, made sure I outlined all of the parts and tools that I needed before even starting. So having something like this is great to reference before and during the job. I hope this video was helpful to you all. I will reference the full-length tutorial in the description down below where I replaced the axle seal on my 1999 Toyota 4Runner. Please feel free to ask questions. I am here to help and give you guys any form of guidance as you need it when going through the repair. With that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.